Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in for the December Fragrance Awards. If you're new to the channel or new to the series, this is just my way of sharing with you my thoughts on many of the fragrances that I wore over the past month, and I put them into these made up award categories just for our own perfume entertainment here. Before I kick off, I want to say a huge, enormous, heartfelt thank you to those of you that are subscribed to the channel, or even those of you that just drop by occasionally for videos that are of interest to you. I checked my analytics recently, and my videos have been viewed over 3 million times around the world. And that is just mind boggling to me, super humbling, and it fills my heart with joy and warmth to know that people enjoy the content. This monthly award series happens to be the most popular series on my channel. So I'm especially grateful to those of you that enjoy and tune in every month and leave comments and interact with each other. And if you're a silent viewer that doesn't like to comment, that's totally fine too. Thank you so much. I hope you had a wonderful year. So this is going to end out my 2024 monthly award series. And then tomorrow, on New Year's Day, I am going to post a year in review, a 2024 awards in review, also just for fun, friends. So the first category is the best for the season. And there are so many in the lineup for this month that really are fantastic for. I'm in the Northern Hemisphere for this cold time of year. I'm in Virginia, and it has gotten fairly cool at least some weeks. Cool and cold. We've had some freezing temperatures down in the 20s and 30s, and then other weeks that were in the 50s and maybe even 60s some weeks. But I'm going to go with a cold weather beauty that is newer to my collection. I think I purchased this fall, and it's from Widian, and it's called YASAT. And this is known to have a lovely caramel note, which a lot of people pick up. I detect some sort of sweetness in the fragrance. I wouldn't necessarily pause and go, oh, I smell a caramel note, but there's definitely something like a gourmand aspect to the fragrance. But primarily, I would say it's an amber, woody fragrance with some touches of spiciness. It's a very warm and cozy yet sensual fragrance. I could see this being a fantastic date night fragrance, cuddling up with your significant other, or if you were going to an evening affair and wanted to smell warm and comforting and have like a sensual edge to you, this is a beautiful fragrance. Some of the primary notes are cardamom that adds some spice. There's a beautiful vanilla and amber and woodiness in the base. I think it's cedar that is the wood note. And then it has that caramel note, which adds this sort of sweetness to it. There are other notes in the fragrance that I cannot detect, including a bergamot note and I forget what else, but that is what stands out to me. So I would say this is a warm, somewhat spicy, very delicate on the spice end. I mean, some of the other fragrances that I'm going to discuss are at least one or two others are pretty spicy. This is a very delicate, delicate spice that adds just some intrigue. The vanilla and the amber and the slight woodiness in the base come through for me with that sort of delicate sweetness from the caramel as a wraparound to this fragrance. Really fantastic, pretty long lasting, nicely projecting, not beast mode into the room, but people are going to smell you when you have this on. And I do love the series from the Widian line in these sort of dark cherry, reddish, ruddy brown bottles. They're just really beautiful and elegant to handle. In the category of everyday fragrance is from Jusbox. This is called Cheeky Smile. I learned this year that the inspiration for the Jusbox fragrances are from the music world, which explains why this looks like an old-fashioned record. When you turn off the lights, this part glows in the dark. I'm trying to remember, do the sides glow in the dark or is it just this? I don't quite remember, but I love the name Juice Box, like jukebox, except juice in a box. A glass box. Anyhow, the fragrance is called Cheeky Smile, and it is one of these fragrances that is kind of like a Your Skin But Better fragrance. If you're familiar with the Eccentric Molecules fragrances, this gives me vibes of Molecule '01, which is that sort of soft, woody, smells like pencil shavings type of deal that is kind of universally appealing, inoffensive, easy to wear day to day. This is definitely heavy on ISO E Super and on ambroxan. And so for those of you that are averse to those notes because they feel too like chemical heavy to you or something like that, you may not enjoy this fragrance. This also has ambery touches. There's this really lovely woody warmth to this fragrance that is very unisex. I don't consider this masculine or feminine, although I will say there is like a touch of sweetness. like ever so slight touch of sweetness that I think would make this appealing to ladies who want some sort of sweetness in their fragrances so that it doesn't lean masculine to them or because they're not into unisex scents. There's a little bit here, but the vast majority of this fragrance experience is this really sort of clean, dry, woody feeling with a soft, delicate, ambery base that adds almost like this sort of warm, golden feel to it and this slight sweetness at the top. And so this is one, it's an easy, t-shirt and jeans type of deal, something to run errands, definitely something that would be work appropriate and would be easy on other people's noses. I can't imagine anyone smelling this and thinking that it smells bad, but I will say I'm not sure that a fragrance like this is for everyone. So you need to enjoy those sort of woody, molecular smelling fragrances. And what I mean by molecular is because all fragrances are made up of molecules of some sort or another, right? But molecular meaning that there's a certain molecule that is the featured note of the fragrance. So like those eccentric molecules fragrances feature ambroxan or they feature iso-e super or the I forget the name of the molecule that mimics sandalwood, that type of deal. So this is in that same family, but I like that it's sort of a light, nice, easygoing scent bubble around you with a little bit of warmth, a little bit of woodiness, and just very versatile, sort of a day-to-day, everyday, easy wear type of fragrance. I guess I should also say this is pretty long lasting. When I spray this on, it takes me through the day. It takes me through the day. It gets soft, but you can smell it. It will be a fragrance that some people are probably nose blind to, meaning they spray it on and they can't smell it on themselves, but other people can smell it on them. I don't know why. Something about the nature of these kinds of notes that people sometimes some people become it's not anosmic. Anosmic means that you can't smell the thing at all ever. Nose blind is different in that you pick it up and then when you first spray it on and then you can't smell it later on. It's a different kind of thing. So anyway, I really enjoy this fragrance and I enjoy fragrances like this more and more as I get older and older. I like these sort of easy day-to-day types of fragrances. In the special occasion category, although I have worn this from home, and in fact, the day that I wore it this month, I was just working here in my home. But it's one that I would not hesitate to wear to an evening affair, especially in colder weather. I mean, any time of year, but colder weather, especially because it is a pretty powerhouse fragrance. This is Old School Friends, and this is Michael Kors. Actually, it's just called Michael, but the newer formulation of this has the full Michael Kors name on the bottle. If you're looking for an older formulation, did it come out in '01? I think it was 2001, 2000 or 2001 when this fragrance was released. 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. The older formulations just have the name Michael on the bottle. I do have an older formulation that I purchased. I think it was on eBay, and I used that sparingly because the sprayer on that one is pretty defunct. It's like it malfunctions. In fact, that is a critique of this strange bottle design that this atomizer that you have to depress here to use sometimes can leak and whatever. So that aside, this fragrance and this formulation is still pretty fabulous and pretty darn close to the original. In fact, I can barely tell any difference at all. Maybe it's just my imagination. The notes in here, I'd love to read them to you, but I don't know that it really matters because this is a floral bomb of a fragrance. It's primarily known as a soft, very sort of I shouldn't say soft, excuse me, it's strong, but it's soft in that the texture of it's a tuberose fragrance is where I'm going, friends. It's tuberose, and the tuberose is not harsh in any way. It's not indolic. It is a very soft, creamy, elegant, feminine. One of the most beautiful tuberose fragrances I have ever smelled, Michael. And it's got a bunch of other notes, including osmanthus. Osmanthus is a note that smells a little bit like apricot, so think about like that kind of fruity sweetness. There's musk, there's cashmere wood in the base. The experience of this fragrance is for me largely a somewhat sweet, rather creamy, well-rounded, very robust, full experience white floral fragrance. Tuberose being the primary player. I remember when this first came out and it was so room filling. My friend, bought it at the time and I remember thinking that fragrance is too grown up for you. How old was I at that time? I was probably 25, 26 in that range when this fragrance was released. And I just remember thinking, honey, that is too much for you. But she loved it, and I remember thinking it smelled really good, but it was strong. And so this is a very mature fragrance, full on white floral experience. I love that it has a little bit of woodiness and a little bit of muskiness to ground it and prevent it from being just sort of wispy white floral in nature. This is a pretty strong, commanding fragrance. It fills up a room pretty quickly. It lasts a very long time. I think it has a lot of sex appeal too. My husband loves when I wear this. He loves white florals on me in general, and this is probably one of his favorites. And so this is one that will always be in my collection as long as I can find bottles of it. I filmed my top 10 for life video that posted right before this video, and I will link it below if you're interested in checking that out. And I mentioned in the pinned comment of that fragrance that this is in my top core for life fragrances. I will always love Michael. It has a special place in my heart. Speaking of sexy fragrances, in the category of sexiest fragrance for the month of December is one that I tried when it first came out. I thought it was okay, but I didn't think I really wanted a bottle. And I think it had to do with the fact that it was really hyped up at the time of its release. And sometimes I get in this mode of thinking where if it's like super hyped up, my mind gets into this mode where I decide I'm not going to like it. I'm going to make myself not like it. It's such a ridiculous way of thinking, right? So anyway, I remember trying this in Ulta and thinking, okay, that's all right, but I don't understand what all the hype is about. I got re-interested in the fragrance. I think it was sometime last year. Purchased a tester that didn't have a cap, drove me crazy, and finally sold that and picked up one with the cap. And this is L'Interdit Rouge. Rouge. L'Interdit Rouge. Okay, from Givenchy. This fragrance, first of all, the bottle is mega sexy on this with this sort of dark reddish cherry, like gothic red almost. This is a tuberose jasmine, beautiful, really elegant fragrance, and it has an added note of ginger. And I swear there's some other spices in here other than ginger that give it this sort of really soft, spicy edginess alongside the beautiful white florals. This has, I think, wood in the base. I think it's a sandalwood note. Let me check. Yes, it's sandalwood in the base. I love a good sandalwood note. I think it adds a lot of intrigue to a lot of fragrances. And I think this is one of those fragrances that just has automatic sex appeal, sort of Jessica Rabbit, va va voom factor. You know, lady in red, stunning in the room. She walks in her red dress. She's got her high heels on. Her hair is perfectly curled and gorgeous. And she's got a red lip on and she's there to slay. She might be wearing this fragrance. It has a lot of sex appeal, a lot of longevity and projection. This is another one that will fill up a room quickly. It does get a little bit softer as you wear through the day, as many fragrances do, but it starts off pretty strong and it's got fantastic longevity, will take you into the evening hours. And I love these little bottles. I've had the regular L'Interdit, I've had the limited edition one that has the lace pattern on it, I've had the black intense version. All of those are beautiful too. And I have to say, this is probably my favorite from the line. Last year, when I became an affiliate of So Avant Garde, I had the opportunity to try some fragrances from Plume Impression, a house that was new to me. And I really started to fall in love with a bunch of them. And I have the sixth one added to my collection, courtesy of So Avant Garde that sent this to me to try out. Now, I had already sampled this fragrance before because I bought a sample pack of Plume Impression fragrances. This was among them. It's one that I've recommended to people, but I'm putting it here in the category of the biggest surprise because when I tried it, I really enjoyed it a lot, but felt like perhaps I was not going to bother with a big bottle because it is primarily a fig fragrance. And fig is one of those notes that I sometimes, I wouldn't say I have a hard time with, but I'm not always into, I guess is a good way to put it. But I knew that I liked it and was willing to sort of take the risk and accept the PR. And when I tried this fragrance on and wore it through my house, I got mega compliments from the people here in this house. And I thought to myself, yeah, this is pretty fantastic. So the fragrance is called Murmure Det. So this is a soft, sweet, almost green. It is green. There's some sweetness and some greenness to the fig. So fig sometimes can come across as just a sweet, sort of fruity fragrance that has like a little bit of grit to it. I don't know how to describe that. We have a fig bush out here. If you've watched my videos, you might remember that I showed you, we call it cousin it. It's a bush that is growing really huge. This thing is probably it's probably reached a story high and it produces like over 100 figs during harvest season. So anyway, ripe figs taste sweet and they have this sort of like almost like raisin texture type of grit in the taste. I don't know how else to describe that, but figs can also have a greenness in a fragrance. So I feel like it has equal parts sweetness and a little bit of greenness as well. The other primary note in the fragrance that stands out to me is a gorgeous sandalwood. There are other notes, okay, other woody notes. There's tonka bean, but I just feel like this is, for me, this is, it's unisex in that if my husband wore this, I think it would smell really great on him, but I think it has some nice feminine qualities to it as well. And it has this airy softness in the air. It's almost like a the way when it dissipates, it's like this cloud of fog that reaches your nose and just surprises you with some of the most pleasant note combinations like ever. Has a very, very sophisticated smell in the air. So I don't tend to think of fig as a sophisticated note, but the way that it's combined here with other notes, including that sandalwood and the tonka bean and whatever else is in here. There's Davana as well, which sometimes comes across as a little bit green. That maybe is part of what gives it its greenness as well. But it's just a super elegant, woody, sandalwood primarily fragrance with the sweetness and I don't know, there's just this soft, like delicate nature that just sort of wafts through the air and just sort of gently hugs the smell, the person smelling it, the smeller. I was gonna say it hugs the smeller. It hugs the person smelling it. And there's like the sound that I would associate with the way this fragrance smells is ah, ah. When it reaches your nose, there's this feeling of bliss and peace and like you're in the clouds. So I don't know how else to describe this at the moment. Maybe I'll have some other sophisticated way to describe it next time, but this is a big surprise because I knew that I liked it, but I didn't think I would love it the way that I did. So huge and last. I mean, this went on and on and on. My husband continued to compliment me on this during the day. He kept saying, "Man, you smell really, really classy." That's the word that he used, classy. So the next category is the best bottle, and I finally had a chance to do a full dedicated wear, as in not wearing it alongside other fragrances or testing it overnight, just a full on days dedicated wear for Alexander J, Oriental, Enigma. I mean, these bottles are doing the absolute most. They're maybe even like Liberace style gaudy, okay? What you see here is someone in a masquerade, it's like a masquerade ball, get up here with the mask on and whatever. Or maybe it's supposed to look like Mardi Gras. I have no idea. The same thing is happening on the back with this relief on the glass. So I can't imagine what the production cost on these bottles is compared to a simpler bottle, perhaps like, I mean, none of the bottles I've showed you so far are simple, but let's say something a little bit simpler like that. This is something else. So you either love this or you hate how gaudy and ostentatious and flashy it is. Even the cap is super duper ornate. This fragrance, I'm not going to look up the notes for you because it doesn't really matter. It's fall spicy. It's like a classic fall spicy sticky dates smelling fragrance. It almost has this sort of like syrupiness to it. It's in the same family as Angel Share. It's in the same family as Cult at Night, in the same family as Rouge Sarai from Atelier des Ors. If you have tried that, this is very, very close to that. Imagine any of those fragrances, Ojan and all of those fall spicy fragrances with a stickier sort of date note in it that has a little bit of a syrupy aspect, and you get the idea of what this smells like. It's sort of dark, mysterious, spicy, maybe ambery, perhaps a little boozy, and definitely sticky dates comes to mind. So if you smelled sticky dates from Lush, that same type of date thing that shows up in there, same kind of deal here. I really like this fragrance. I have a lot of fragrances like this, and so if I didn't have a lot of fragrances like this, I would be incredibly amused by this one, but because it falls in that same family as others, I like it. I'll just leave it at that. I like it. I won't say that it's a love, but darn, it's a good fragrance, and the bottle is something else, is all I will say. There's a whole line of these Alexander J fragrances that look like this as well. This is the only one that I've been interested in purchasing. I looked at reviews for others and just I don't know, I'm a little bit iffy on those. So anyway, that was what category was that? The best bottle. So then the worst bottle, because it completely betrays the fragrance. This is sad. This is a pitiful bottle. I want to point out because someone asked me recently, this is a fragrance that I think is marketed toward men. It is from Lolita Lempicka and it's called Green Lover. So the bottle looks misshapen, right? As though it's been sort of pushed to the side, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. This is the Leaning Perfume Tower here. This green bottle, I don't mind the color of it, but the leaning aspect of it, the misshapen, I guess that's supposed to be some kind of like star, or I don't know what that is on there. Have you tried Green Lover? If so, what do you think? It's a minty vanilla fragrance. Some people joke around that this smells like toothpaste. And yes, you do get a little bit of toothpaste nature in it, softened with the background vanilla. I find this to be a really fresh, delightful wearing fragrance. When you want to smell fresh out of the shower, minty clean, but you want a little bit of softness to it as well because the vanilla adds that softness. So some kind of toothpaste mintiness with vanilla. Maybe it sounds really weird, but it definitely works on days when you don't want something like general winter heavy, but you want the winter aspect of the vanilla. That mintiness, that freshness on top is it's a refreshing feeling, but dang, what an ugly bottle. Lord have mercy. Let us go on. In the category of favorite blind buy, I've been on an Amouage collection kick in 2025. What can I say? I get on these bandwagons. I want to try everything from a specific house. I end up buying a bunch of them. Amouage is one of the houses I have um, dived? Do you dove? I dove. I dove. What is the past tense of dive? Dove. I dove headfirst into Watch this year. I picked this up on sale on Jomas Shop and have no regrets. I remember trying this before and maybe wasn't that into it when I first tried it. Sometimes, friends, you have to do a full day wear on a fragrance to see if you really like it. So this is Portrayal. What a gorgeous bottle here. Really interesting sort of iridescent effect on the bottle. The fragrance is primarily jasmine and tobacco, and it has this resinous base. It's elemi that is the base note, one of the primary base notes of this fragrance. Am I missing anything? Yes, vanilla. So when I wore this, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I loved it. It was a bit much on the initial opening, like, oh, what am I getting myself into? Is this going to be a little bit too strong and pungent for me? But the way that this dries down and sort of becomes the second skin, not like a skin scent, but a second skin, almost like you are emanating the essence of deep fall into winter goodness. The tobacco in this fragrance is one of the most well done tobaccos I have ever smelled. And I have tried many, many tobacco fragrances. I love tobacco as a note. It can show up really sort of dirty and earthy. It can show up sort of like wet and leafy. It can show up dry and almost like crumbly in a fragrance. Here, it is a moist smelling tobacco. I know that sounds weird, but stay with me. There's this moistness to this tobacco fragrance. Can I take a little pause? I was in college in the late 90s from 93 to 97, and we had lots of little choice words for things. Like we would call things fly. Remember that? Oh, that's fly. Well, anyway, some of my college friends and I started to make up words. And one of the words we made up just for fun is we would start calling things moist to talk about it being like really amazing or exceptional. That's moist. That's moist. So, anyway, sorry, I keep saying that word. And some people are really bothered by the word MOIST. You just think it's a weird word. The tobacco feels humid. Let's say that instead of moist, it feels like a humid, full bodied tobacco with the smoothest, roundest edges to it. Like it is filed down. Any roughness that you ever experienced in any tobacco scent anywhere is taken away. And you are left with the essence of what makes tobacco a fabulous note. The smoothest, humid, luscious almost tobacco. Reminds me of like a tropical tobacco, and it's beautifully blended alongside the jasmine. The jasmine in this fragrance is so smooth and beautiful. I can't get enough of it. And the vanilla is soft in here, and then you have those beautiful resins in the base, and it is glorious. It's wintertime glory. Like if there's, Father Winter, this is Mother Winter personified here. Portrayal, absolutely gorgeous. Very sort of like, okay, if you're into Amouage and you have Overture, that is a spicy, almost like super loud leather scent with some florals in it and all of that. And it can be really in your face. This one, it does get in your face, but it sort of like floats into the room. It floats into the room like Mother Winter in her beautiful gown and makes her presence known. I am here. And she's got a high popped up collar on her winter cape. And her winter cape is maybe this color of iridescence here, and there's, like, smoky tobacco coming it's not smoky, there's nothing smoky about this fragrance, but there's, like, tobacco sort of wafting off of her, and she's got flowers, white a crown of white flowers in her hair. Let me just stop. Imma go on. Favorite blind buy. Not safe. I'm still not sure how I feel about this fragrance. I think I like it. But I have to wait till the dry down, and sometimes when I have to wait till the dry down, I wonder, is it really something I wanna keep? So I'm not sure. Today, I'm gonna say I like this fragrance. This is from Kayali, and this is Vanilla Royale Sugared Patchouli 64. Kayali, can we get 2 words in a name instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, and a number? Lord have mercy. The notes are on the back, which thank you, Kayali, for making my life easy. Definitely vanilla heavy. In the dry down, you get one of the most sort of round, robust vanillas that I have anywhere in my collection. Rum. This is definitely a boozy fragrance. It says creme brulee. I don't know that I get a sort of whole lot of dessertiness out of this. There's definitely a sweetness in the dry down. Sugar, brown sugar in particular, oud, and sugared patchouli. So this is a very sort of earthy patchouli. It smells in the, wet dirt direction. I don't mind that smell. I actually like that smell. Some people can't stand it. But this is very, very earthy on the opening. The patchouli and the oud, I feel like assault you on the opening of this fragrance. And they hang around for quite a bit of time. It's probably into the 20 to 30-minute mark that you start to get the sweet, sugared vanilla portions of this fragrance. I feel like the oud and the patchouli calm down significantly and are accompanying players in the deep dry down of this fragrance, in the mid and into the deep dry down. The thing is, if you can't get past that opening portion, there's really no point in having this fragrance. I do think it smelled nice later on. I just don't know what I think. I do like it. I'll just leave it at that. And I'm not sure how long we will be friends and if Vanilla Royale Sugar Patchouli will stick around in the collection. I picked it up on sale on Joma Shop, where I make both really great decisions and maybe some questionable decisions. But for now, we're going to say that this is nice, but not a safe blind buy because of the very, very rude opening of this fragrance and the fact that it lasts quite a bit of time. In the category of hidden gem, I'm trying to tell y'all about this, but people, are you listening? Coming close. Definitely give this one a try. If you can order a sample, go ahead, but it's not super expensive. Well, that's all relative. Okay. It's, I think, $110 for the full bottle. And this is Oris Vanille from Banana Republic. This is so fantastic in a subtle way. It's not one that is going to just overwhelm you with its beauty, but as you wear it during the day, you're getting whiffs of yourself, wafts, and going, dang, I smell good. So, my husband had a very interesting reaction to this fragrance. He loved it on me, and I was surprised because I do think that this has a prominent vanilla. In fact, he liked a number of vanillas that I wore this month, and he claims not to be a vanilla lover. Maybe that's changing, but his comments, I wrote it down on a little note here because I wanted to remember to share with y'all. He said, no, it's not beautiful. It's fascinating. That's the word he used. He continued to describe this as it's almost delicious in a sexy way, like a woman that I want to eat up. That woman is me. I'm the only woman that he wants to eat up. Here's the thing about this fragrance that's hard to describe. I'm looking at the notes on So Avant Garde. I don't get any of the top notes: bergamot, lemon pepper, juniper. The mid includes incense. I don't think this is an incensey fragrance. I do, however, pick up the orris, which is a nice, almost dense powderiness that's in the iris direction. I mean, orris is the root of the iris plant. Apple blossom. There is this sort of freshness to this fragrance that is in the slight fruity direction. So when you think about apples, there is the red apple sweetness, which is very delicate and light and fresh. And then there are other apples that are really fresh and really sweet, I mean, rather. This is more like a red apple type of sweetness. In the dry down, amberwood, vanilla, and sandalwood. For me, this is heavy on the vanilla, really sort of creamy sandalwood. And I do get the dense orris note in this fragrance. This is nice, and that sort of, like, light sweetness that I mentioned, and it's just really appealing in a very easygoing way, not imposing. There isn't any part of this fragrance that sort of juts out in front of the other. It's enveloping and it's pleasant. It's just super pleasant to wear. Easygoing. I mean, if you have tried the Only One Intense from Dolce& and Gabbana, so I went through that bottle. In fact, I need to think about picking up another because I ran out. I used the entire bottle. This reminds me of it could be like a cousin to that fragrance, without the pronounced florals. If you stripped out the florals from that fragrance and maybe took away the coconut aspects, this reminds me of sort of the base of the Only One Intense. It's really super delightful. It lasted a lot longer than I thought. I criticized this fragrance when I first tried it as not having longevity, but everyone smelled this on me later in the day. So again, another case where I went nose blind to it, but everyone else could smell it around me. And then a fragrance that is worth hunting down. This is Olympea Legend. I don't know if this is made anymore. I imagine you can find it on discount sites. As always, I will link all of these fragrances below wherever I can find them. And what I love, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What I love about this fragrance is it smells like vanilla ice cream. It smells like vanilla itself. And it smells like this apricot stone fruit goodness. It has this airy, almost cloud like sweetness to it. And it smells like vanilla bean ice cream. So if you've had pure Breyer's ice cream, I love Breyer's ice cream because they use very few ingredients to make their ice cream, including pure vanilla bean. So if you've had vanilla bean ice cream from Breyer's, when it melts down, the beautiful sort of milky creamy smell that comes up to you with the hint of vanilla in it from the vanilla bean, along with stone fruit sweetness. Oh, so good. This is beautiful, very, very feminine, highly feminine fragrance, moderate in longevity, nicely projecting when you first wear it, and unique. I don't have anything else in my collection that smells quite like this. There's a touch of powderiness in the fragrance as well. Olympea Legend, absolutely worth hunting down if you like feminine. I think there's some florals in here too, but mostly vanilla and like an ice creamy vanilla and apricot goodness. I almost forgot to mention the fragrance that goes in the overhyped category. So Sephora had the 20% off fragrance sale. I think it was the beginning or maybe the middle of December. I don't even remember. I picked up a number of fragrances, this one and the next one that I'm going to talk about, and I ended up sending both back. This is Kayali Velvet Santal. This fragrance and Silk Santal, the female version, right? The one marketed toward women, Velvet Santal was marketed toward men. I feel like were incredibly overhyped. Silk Santal did not work out for me. I ended up selling that to a friend of mine. I could see how people liked it. I just didn't understand why people were staying up into the wee hours of the morning trying to purchase this fragrance when it was stocked again. I didn't think it was that special. It was okay. It was a very okay fragrance, and I felt the same way about Velvet Santal. Some folks said that Velvet Santal was better for them. They liked it more than Silk Santal, so I thought, okay, we have a sale. Let us take advantage and try it. And I sprayed it on. It was all right. I felt like it leaned masculine in a way that I felt uncomfortable wearing. It's a sandalwood and tea fragrance. I feel like there's a floral note in there or something. And it reminded me a lot of CKB from Calvin Klein and another fragrance that I can't put my finger on. But I sprayed it and I thought to myself, I've smelled this before. And I don't know that I need this in my collection. It was very lackluster as a fragrance for me. It was just okay. I know some people really love it. I think it's nice enough, but I don't need it in my collection. So I think it's overhyped. And I think Silk Santal is really quite overhyped as well. If you love them, more power to you. Overhyped for me. We'll go next to the middle fragrances and then the top fragrances. So in the middle category, I also purchased Black Opium Glitter, I think is the name of it. The bottle is so cute with the glittery surround on it. This is a really nice fragrance. However, the reason that it's in the middle category is because it smells quite a lot like the original Black Opium to me. This one, the original Black Opium, which I like quite a lot. The marshmallow aspect in Black Opium Glitter was slight. It was not pronounced enough for me for it to be very different from the original Black Opium. I so love this fragrance very much. So I would say that the marshmallow aspect gives Black Opium Glitter a little bit more sort of tenderness and fluffiness. And if that's for you, go for it. It's a beautiful fragrance. I just didn't feel like I needed it. And I feel like this, it's too close to this for me. And so that's why it was in the middle category. I ended up sending it back to Sephora as well. Also in the middle category, this is a lovely fragrance. This was sent to me by So Avant-Garde as well. However, I feel like it was a bit masculine. My husband really, really enjoyed this on me, but I ended up giving it to him and putting it on his shelf, and it smells quite lovely on him. Spicy Delice, and I don't know how to say the name of the house. J.U.S. Joyal, Unique and Sensoriel. Is that correct? Juice, J-U-S. Cute little bottle. I like the bottles from this house in general. This is a spicy, it felt like a spicy ambery fragrance. It was a little bit too in the perhaps like old spicy direction for my taste, but it smells fantastic on my husband. Let me find some of these notes for y'all. Ginger, cardamom, pink pepper, there's cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg. I mean it has all of the fall and winter spices in it. And there's vanilla and amberwood in the base. So you do get some of that vanilla that kind of softens it up. I mean, smelling it from the nozzle, now I'm like, do I really want it on my husband's shelf? It's reminding me of something. Some old school 80s woman's powerhouse spicy fragrance. Maybe the original Opium or something like that. Let me see what it's compared to here on good old Fragrantica. No, it doesn't smell like any of these fragrances to me. It's compared to Magenta Tanzanite the most. And I don't think this smells as similar to that as people might think. It's almost like a dry spiciness, dry rubbed spices, spices that you would use to rub on something, but they're all fall and winter spices. Anyway, this smells fantastic on my husband. If you are into heavily spicy fragrances, you may want to check this out and or check it out for one of the gentlemen in your life. And then the other that I would put in the middle category, I like this fragrance and I felt like it faded fairly quickly. Heavy Cream from Fleur. So I'm trying to get away from buying these types of body sprays, but this one lured me in, you all. Notes here: lemon sugar, marshmallow orange, coconut cream, yes, vanilla mousse, salted caramel, whipped cream. This does feel very sort of moussey in texture. I think this is delightful. In fact, as I'm smelling it here, I'm almost getting whiffs of how you might smell if you were out in the sun all day and you put on like a coconut cream or something as you were coming out of the water. So there's something sort of warm and solar about this fragrance while it also has those gourmand facets. Definitely a marshmallow tinge to it. I do get this sort of warm, almost toasted coconut here. It's very light and fluffy and almost like spongy. It has like this spongy texture in the air, and I just wish it lasted longer. It is a really, really pleasant fragrance, and I will keep this. Moving on to the top category, the ones that I love the most this month. And I talked about this recently in the top releases of the year, the top new fragrances. And so I'm back to tell you that I am giving this a full stamp of my own personal approval. This was an honorable mention because I hadn't worn it yet at the time of filming that video. I hadn't given it a full on dedicated day's wear. Sublime from Tory Burch. Love this bottle. I appreciate that this is a new and different kind of bottle on the market. Like they took a risk with this. People will think it's lovely or they'll think it's gaudy. And I personally enjoy it. There's something like architecturally fascinating about this bottle for me. When I wore this fragrance, my husband loved this on me. I loved it on myself too, but he continued to compliment me all day long and found this to be a very captivating, alluring fragrance. It opens up with a burst of citrus and very sort of light spring florals. It has for me a base of like a suede, soft, elegant, feminine leather. My husband did not pick up any of the leather. He said to him it didn't smell like leather at all. It just smelled like flowers and happy citrus to him. And so this is a very alluring fragrance. So in the video of the top 10 releases of the year, I said that this smells like brand new, fresh sneakers. When you first open a box of tennis shoes, sneakers, there's the combination of the plastics from the rubber soles and or the rubber from the soles, and then the leather from the uppers. And there's something like fresh and interesting about that. Imagine adding in some citruses and a little bit of florals, and that's what this fragrance smells like. I know that sounds weird, but it just works and it's really great in the air. So this is a big win for me. I'm glad that I went ahead and did I get a full bottle? I did. I purchased a 3-ounce bottle. So this is fantastic. Full 2 thumbs up on this bottle. I also want to give a shout out to a bottle that didn't get a lot of love when it first got released. In fact, some people said they didn't like it. I went ahead and purchased a full bottle of vanilla bourbon from Nest. And so this has bourbon vanilla. It has a brown sugar. I believe there's something boozy in the fragrance as well, although I'm not quite sure about that part, and a sort of woody, musky base. And I think this is so fantastic for late fall into early winter. Again, got complimented by husband on this, and I was shocked because this does lean gourmand, but he likes, oh, did I mention that it has like a night blooming jasmine? Sorry, I almost forgot that. I don't know if I mentioned it. If I didn't, It has a night blooming jasmine. Maybe it's the jasmine in this fragrance that he is into. We have joked around, myself and Jamie from Not Another Perfume channel, that jasmine is like catnip for men. They love the smell of jasmine in fragrances, but that combined with the almost like boozy, sugary vanilla aspect of this, it's really, really delightful, very pleasant, very cozy, very warm, very inviting, like a hug in a bottle. Really, really good, if you ask me. Decent projection, decent longevity, not going to last forever, but that's most of the Nest fragrances anyway. I also wore Commodity Milk, the expressive version. I have the bold version as well, which I love. I do not have the personal version. So the difference between this and the bold version is the bold version has a creamier, more woody base to it. This one stays more fluffy, more sort of on the pure milk end of things rather than the creamy end. This is marshmallow amazingness in a bottle. Fluffy marshmallow sweetness, so good, very milky. This also, I think, has a slight, like, musky, woody base to it, but mostly really sweet, delectable marshmallow, like a thick marshmallow, and this one goes on till the break of dawn. You spray this on, it's on you all day into the night. Really, really good. Also in my top category, another one from Widian, and it is Rose Arabia White. The label just says Widian White. So, these bottles are different than this shape. I prefer this shape, but I will take this shape for what's in here. This is one of those fragrances that when I tried it, I felt instantly in love. It has this sort of je ne sais quoi magical facet to it. It is one of the most highly feminine, beautiful, soft, sweet, delicate fragrances, but still it has a little bit of heft and substance to it as well. It's heliotrope, it's delicate white florals, it has sweet vanilla, a soft, delicate muskiness. This one sort of hovers high in the air like thin, wispy clouds, not the big thunder clouds like some other fragrances can be big thunder clouds. Like this fragrance, Michael, these are the big, heavy thunder clouds. These come on strong. This is wispy and light and airy and so feminine, but it has this thick wispiness about it. It's not like in the ethereal direction, but it gives you an ethereal feel. I can't get enough of this. There is this delicate sweetness that I can't put a name on. It's like imagine like very, very sweet almonds along with very, very sweet white florals, and they're softened up and crushed into like the finest, finely milled powder. It's so good. It's beautiful. It's magical. I can't get enough of this fragrance. I douse myself in this when I wear it. I've worn it probably 3 or 4 times now, and one that I do like drive-by sniffs on because it's so friggin' good. Absolutely glorious. You gotta get your nose on this. You gotta get your nose on this. When I tell you that my husband complimented me endlessly on this next fragrance, we went out. We were at Home Depot. We went to Costco. Where else did we go? We ran around and did like a bunch of errands. I was wearing Andromeda from Tiziano Terenzi. Friends, I can't explain to you the beauty that this fragrance is. You have to try it. It does have the Tiziano Terenzi DNA for those of you that are averse to that or don't like it. And so what I mean by that is gonna smell almost like deeply musky in a way that bothers you, like a screechy musk. I don't get screechy musk from this, but I do get musk. I get musk, I get fruitiness, I get woodiness, and I get vanilla. I get a soft sweetness to this fragrance. The notes I think that are featured in here are apricot and pear. And it's just sweet. It is a beautiful, sweet melange of like cut up different kinds of fruits in a bowl, sprinkled with sweetness, sprinkled with sugar. There are gorgeous florals in the fragrance. There's a lot of musk. It feels very musky and it has some woody tones to it as well. But it's captivating to me. It lasts a long time. It projects. And my husband just goes crazy over this. He thinks it is one of the most alluring, come hither, come in to sniff me kinds of fragrances that I wear. But he feels that way about a lot of the Tiziano Terenzi fragrances, and he just loves the DNA of this house, and so do I. So Andromeda is a huge win for me. And then I want to end with an honorable mention. I didn't actually wear this, but it was sent to me in PR to review from So Avant-Garde. I already tried this fragrance. It's from Mind Games. I did a Mind Games video around this time last year, and this was one of the top contenders from the male lineup, the male marketed lineup in Mind Games. This is Roy Lopez. I am mentioning this because it is magnificent. It's one that was on the list to purchase for him myself anyway. This is a tester bottle, so the notes are on the back. Black tea, black pepper, cherry, rose, and dark plum and Divana in the middle, and then patchouli, leather, and oakwood in the base. It comes across pretty heavy. This is a hefty winter fragrance for men. I would classify this primarily as a woody aromatic fragrance that is uber appealing, incredibly sophisticated, classy, clean lines, architecturally strong as a fragrance. I think it has maybe even a little touch of greenness to it, but woody facets like linear wood. It doesn't say cedar wood, but it kind of gives me that sort of linear, strong aspect of cedar wood that I love in fragrances. And definitely something aromatic, even though I don't see any notes in here that are standing out as aromatic to me. Does it smell like leather? Not necessarily. I mean, we have some pretty strong leather fragrances, my husband and I, across our collections, but this is one of the Mind Games fragrances that I think is worth every penny that is being asked for. Fantastic, and it lasts on my husband forever. So honorable mention because I don't wear this, but my husband does. Thank you for hanging out. I know this was a very long December Fragrance Awards. If you're still here, can you put a sun emoji in the comments for a bright, sunny 2025 ahead? Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a happy, blessed, and safe and peaceful new year wherever you may be around the world. Mwah! Love you guys.